Hello, everybody on all the other platforms. This is Sarah the Pivoter, and I'm coming at you live on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. I just want to do all the things. Hey, Michael, nice to see you. I'm coming at you guys live today because I wanted to talk about this last month. It's been a big month of healing and transformative experiences. Doing Vipassana, a 10-day course of a silent meditation retreat, not really a retreat, and a 5-day plant medicine experience. And so I have been asked by a lot of people to come on and talk about these things. And I wanted to give an honest review of those experiences because there's a lot of noise out there, there's a lot of information out there, and I just wanted to share my experience. So we'll start with the Vipassana experience. I have been wanting to do this for about 2 years, but COVID happened and I was based in Hong Kong, hey Kim, and the center was closed for a while. They also then were at lower capacity because of COVID. And so, everything was booked out in advance. And I was one of those really busy people. So I didn't have time to step away, or I felt I didn't have time. And yet that's why I really, really needed to go. So a Vipassana center, you can go and do 3-day experiences and kind of self-guided ones or pay for an experience. But when you go to a Dhamma center, these are completely volunteer led. They are donation based, so you do not pay in advance before you go. You pay afterwards, and you donate what you can. It's in the spirit of building your Dhamma, and you then are paying it forward. You're giving back so that someone else can have a really good, healthy, transformative experience. So even if you only have $20 or $5, you are giving that with the intention of helping somebody else. And so that's really beautiful in that reciprocity and that energy. But it also means that there are people who have a lot of financial resources. They can help donate and provide spots for many people, and they can really give back to the community in this way. And so when you go for a 10-day course at these centers, what happens is it's called dana, and this is giving the donation, but you can also provide by giving service. So this is their volunteer led. Everyone who goes after can help volunteer their time to work in the kitchen, prepare the grounds, everything. And while you are there, you are practicing noble silence. Noble silence is no communication, no speaking, and no nonverbal communication as well. Now, this is actually quite difficult. I didn't find the not speaking very difficult. And for those of you who know me, I do like to talk, especially like to get on stage and talk a lot with people. But the hard part was sitting next to somebody at breakfast, lunch, or tea time and not making eye contact, not smiling, right? Really awkward when you're going through doorways. And so you look at the ground, you kind of avert your eyes, and there you have no nonverbal or verbal communication. And while you're there as well, you're practicing the 10 paramis, or things that we want to be perfecting. So that is generosity, morality, renunciation, wisdom, effort, tolerance, truth, strong determination, selfless love, and equanimity. The most important thing is equanimity. So as you're going through the experience, you're building this muscle of observing reality as it is and being equanimous about it. So if you have an experience that you don't like so much, instead of creating aversion, or an experience that you really do like and you cling to it, you instead have an equanimous attitude. And so you're observing it for what it is, you're accepting it for what it is. And then from there, you notice that things change. Good things, bad things, the things you want to experience, the things you don't want to experience. They're constantly changing. And this is the impermanence of life. Now, many of us can intellectualize this. We hear this a lot in books that we read, gurus that we follow, but we don't really know how to experience it ourselves. So through the practice of Vipassana, you really experience impermanence and you learn a lot about yourself. Not speaking for 10 days, not communicating with others for 10 days, not having the distraction of TV. There's no electronics, there's no books, there's no journal, no pens, um, no crystals, right? No cards, nothing that you can distract yourself with. So you can walk, no other forms of exercise. And while you're there, you also have to agree to not partake in any other forms of energy healing, other styles of meditation, so that you can really give what they call a fair trial to the technique, which I think is very fair. It is really about self discipline and building that for yourself. It is not rite or ritual, there's no religion, it's not based on blind faith. It is not intellectual or philosophical entertainment, not just a exercise that you go through. And it's not a retreat. It's not a holiday or a cure from socializing. It's not um, an escape, right? A lot of us think of these things as an escape. Many people take a retreat in order to get away from the real world and rest and recover, rejuvenate. But then they don't take those practices back into their real lives. They don't integrate. So they have to keep rinse and repeat, going through the same process. What it is, they say Vipassana is a technique that will eradicate suffering. It's a method of mental purification, which allows you to face life's tensions and problems in a calm and balanced way. And it's the art of living and teaches you how to make positive contributions to society. And this is Vipassana meditation is not just about balancing the mind, it is really aimed at the highest spiritual goal of total liberation and full enlightenment. The purpose is not just to simply cure disease or, balance the stress that we have, but really um, those are byproducts. Psychosomatic symptoms, unhappiness. As we move away from having craving and developing attachment and having aversion, we can then eradicate suffering because at the end of the day, pain is going to come into our life. We will break bones, we will have broken hearts, we will be in situations that we don't like. And instead of constantly trying to avoid these types of situations or craving something and striving towards it and then developing an attachment, which then when we don't get it, we're really upset, we learn to observe reality for what it is. And as we do this, we are untying the knots that we've built up in our lives and all the constructs, the things that we think we need to make ourselves happy. And when you go, this is, I don't know if you'll be able to see this. The blurry thing is on the StreamYard, Instagram, it's mirrored. But you wake up at 4 a.m. and then from 4:30 till 9:30, you're essentially meditating the entire time. And you are silent. You are going through, we've got breakfast break and lunch break and tea break. Once you go back as a second time, you only have a tea break, you no fruit or anything else. And it really helped me to establish a really solid routine, but it also flexed that discipline muscle. Now, even the most disciplined of us, the ones that do have routines that we stick to and we're pretty strong on our habits and we're disciplined, we can still fall off the bandwagon. And, that had happened with my meditation practice. And so this couldn't have come at a better time. I applied in early July and I knew I was going to be on a wait list. And I also knew, I don't know what it was, something inside me told me I was going. So I started telling people I was going. I told my clients, I set up my business to be able to run while I was away, put up the away notices, the away messages for email, and made it possible so that I could go. Sure enough, the Monday before the Wednesday start of the course, I got the notification that I was in. And this really just furthered my belief that when we are intentional about something and we go after it, we can really create the reality that we choose. So as we're there, there's a code of disciplines, of course, the noble silence, no speaking, but we also follow 5 precepts. This is to abstain from killing any being. Yes, that includes mosquitoes. To abstain from stealing, sexual activity, all sexual activity, including with oneself. to abstain from telling lies, and to abstain from all intoxicants. Men and women are separated, there's no physical contact. The only time that you would speak during the Vipassana course is when you might have a question to the teacher to make sure that you're following the meditation protocol correctly in case you're not sure of something, or if you needed something from the course manager, there was an emergency of some kind. While we were there, the food was actually delicious. I was expecting kind of bland food. A lot of times when you go to things like this, it's about removing the sensation of experience. So sometimes the food is quite bland, or it's not anything that's going to be too delicious. But it was actually well done. It was a bilingual course. There was Burmese language as well. So the food was that Asian flavor. And I have to tell you guys, coming back to America, I am sorely disappointed in the Asian food here after being abroad for 13 years. I've had the real stuff, not the American flavored stuff with all the sugar and salt and breading and whatever else they do to the food here for the American palate. So it felt like being home, to be quite honest. It was really wonderful. But it definitely showed me how much I use reading, how much I use listening to music, doing work, writing in a journal, pulling cards, crystals, whatever it is, getting on lives to distract myself. And I didn't have any of those things, right? I came up with so many ideas. I was so creative because I didn't have all this noise, and I couldn't write anything down. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, I hope I remember this. I hope I remember. And you know what I learned? What I needed to remember, I remembered. So I learned how to trust myself during these 10 days. How to trust myself in that I would retain what I really needed, and whatever fell away, that would evolve and it would morph into something else. I was one of those people who used to obsessively take notes during, coaching calls, sessions. My coach recently asked me, like, what's that really about for you? And she's like, do you actually go back and check those notes? And I do. I'll search a keyword and I'll remember where I wrote it in the book and where on the page. But really, I don't need them. Yes, they're great, but it's not necessary. So it helped me to reestablish a relationship of trust with myself, in that what I really needed to retain, I would. And what I didn't, that's okay. I could let it go and I could move on to something else. It was also wonderful, I thought, once we got the meditation cells in the pagoda, because in that place, all that's taking place is meditation. So the energy there is very powerful. It's very potent. It's darker. It's a bit quieter. We didn't have to wear the mask. There was a bit of an uptick in cases. So the center asked that we wear masks when we were in public spaces. And I found that it just intensified everything. So with Vipassana, really what you're doing, the style of meditation, it's an ancient technique. It's been around for 2,500 years. It was rediscovered in India by Gautama Buddha, and it was taught by him as a universal remedy for ills. And it's non-sectarian. Their whole aim is the total eradication of suffering, resulting in the highest level of happiness. And I mean, who doesn't want that, right? It's a way of self-transformation by self-observation, deep self-observation. I mean, when you are fully silent, you watch your mind unravel. Like this ball of yarn that is, you're pulling the string and then there's a knot and that gets untangled and you just see where this string goes. So this whole tapestry of life that we've woven, we are pulling those strings, we're unweaving it, and then we're putting it back together again. So it was this really amazing science experiment for me. And I've been keeping up the meditation after, and it's really done wonders. But it was just amazing to watch my mind unravel, witness the patterns of thought that I have, and how that leads to different belief patterns, different actions, routines that I got stuck in, cycles that I couldn't seem to get out of. I was able to really clearly see why. And the things that I was, having aversion to or craving for, and how by releasing that and just noticing what is and accepting what is, I was able to reduce that anxiety and that suffering. We've all heard pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And we can intellectualize that. But experiencing that firsthand, sitting in a position for an hour. By day 3, they introduced the sitting of strong determination. So this is where once you sit, you don't move. You don't open your eyes, you don't move your arms and legs. If you started to kind of crouch down, you could, sit straight in your spine, but the intention was to not move. And, your knee might have a pain. You might go numb in your legs and really want to move. But then you realize in a few minutes, it goes away. It changes. And so firsthand, you're experiencing the impermanence of the gross sensations and the subtle sensations. And as you work through and you just bring awareness to these different sensations, you can start to then have your attention on the subtle sensations. How many of you have ever paid attention to the oxygen, the air coming in and out of your nostrils? Not something we typically pay attention to, right? So there's a lot going on. Our body is constantly responding to things, right? When we're asleep, that mosquito lands on us, we go and smack it, we roll over, we change positions, we get up to go to the bathroom. We're not conscious, we're not awake, and yet these things are happening. And so through this meditation, it's allowing us to see, how's our unconscious mind working? What is it doing? What is it responding to? And as we build awareness around that, we can be more conscious and intentional with the responses that are coming out. And we can start to notice the sensation as they come up. So for example, I started to notice that when I was uncomfortable and I didn't like something, I wanted to go and eat more food. I wanted to read a book. I wanted to do something to distract myself. And even in the eating, right? You think, oh, I'm not going to have dinner. There's only fruit at tea time. Maybe I should eat a bit more for lunch. Or I don't know what I'm going to have later. So I noticed this tendency of eating a little bit more in this scarcity mindset. And it brought me back to a memory of when I was a child. And if I didn't perform well in school or if I was goofing around, then I sometimes didn't get dinner as a punishment. And, whether that you agree with that or not, that's not the point. The point is that I then realized that from that moment, I had this pattern of, I don't know when I'll get my next meal, so I should eat a little bit more just in case. And then when I would be stressed and I would feel not whole through some other experience, I would overeat. So I found a lot of these different kind of things coming up as I was sitting in the Vipassana. In this place in California, I went to the North Fork Center. It was established in 1991, over 109 acres. Was able to walk around the lake every day, and I noticed things that I've never noticed before. I was able to see the colors and the contrast, find feathers on the ground, brilliant blue and red feathers from these birds that were around, listening to the woodpeckers, these little tiny frogs hopping along the pathway. These are things we don't typically notice because we're so busy up in our heads or on our phones trying to, get ahead in the world. And so it really allowed me to slow down. It gave me that permission. It pulled me away from the algorithms and, all of the scrolling that we get locked into, and it was beautiful. And I also noticed by day 3, I was tuning into the subtle vibrations of the wood, of the trees, of the plants. Everything is vibration. Everything is energy. If you don't believe me, look at Albert Einstein. Look at quantum physics and science. You can Google it. We are all made up of atoms, which are protons, neutrons, and electrons. And in each atom, 99.99% of that is space. So we are literally just vibrating cells of energy, right? We're just bumping around, vibrating at a certain speed so that we're solid. We can't go through the wall, right? Maybe someday we'll figure out how to reorganize our vibration and travel long distances, right? And materialize, but that's not our reality yet. So as this was going on, I started to experience what I typically only ever experienced with psychedelics or plant medicine. And I was literally able to see the vibration of the trees and of the plants as I was walking by, the wood patterns moving and morphing as if I had taken psilocybin or some other psychedelic, psychoactive substance. And it was because I had tuned in so much to the subtleties of vibration, I was able to see things on a different frequency, on a different level, and really experience this truth, this universal truth that we are energy. So it really allowed me to dissolve the tensions. By the end of the course, my hips were more open. Some of the kind of knots that were appearing in the beginning were starting to go away. And that struggle, that internal struggle in the mind, really dissipated. And it was extremely powerful. Now, there were definitely days that I wanted to just leave, and I was like, I'm doing it wrong. And I was judging myself. I just did my best to continue bringing compassion to the practice, be curious about what was coming up, be equanimous about it, and then bring my attention back to the subtle sensations and the sensations in my body. And not making up stories about what that meant, but just simply observing what was. What I found after this 10-day experience, and we were actually there for 12 days because you check in and you check out. The noble silence ends on the ninth day, and as he says, it goes to noble chattering because they want to reestablish your extroversion tendencies and the ability to speak, so that when you go back out into the world, hey Parker, you're not um, overwhelmed by all the sounds and stimulation, right? So when I came out, I noticed that I wasn't as stressed. I went to a coffee shop with the girlfriend that was driving. It took a long time. And in the past, I would have certainly been annoyed. I would have just been like, I'm leaving. I wouldn't have stayed to wait to order food. This time I just was calm. It was what it was. And I allowed myself to be in the experience and have a conversation with the person and be curious about their day and notice how the previous tendency was rush, 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 and sitting in this new energy. It was a really wild experience. And then going through my flight to get to North Carolina for the plant medicine, this was also, my flight was canceled after I landed in Newark, couldn't get to North Carolina, couldn't get on the next few flights with standby. There was rain. My friend who's in the Air Force said there was actually lightning storms, which is why the airports were closed. Even a few soldiers had got struck by lightning during exercises and they passed. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we're simply not aware of. Yet we're so quick to make judgment and assumptions. So this really helped change the filters at which I look at life through and allowed me to be a whole lot more patient. Now, I'm certainly way more patient than I was a year ago, 5 years ago. But if you were to talk to my mom or my partner, they'd probably have a good laugh if you use the word patient as an adjective to describe me. But this course really allowed me to develop that patience and develop that equanimous muscle to accept reality for what it was instead of being frustrated that it wasn't what I wanted it to be, that things weren't happening on my timeline, right? Because the world is not all about me. It's not all about you. It's not all about anyone. We are actually all connected. And that's a really nice segue for me to come into the plant medicine ceremonies, because with that, I really did feel that connection with everyone and everything. And so, taking this art of living, this peace and harmony that we can allow ourselves to have from the Vipassana experience, knowing that it's possible, knowing that no matter what I'm experiencing in this moment, it's going to pass. This too shall pass, right? I just have a Gandalf, you shall not pass, come into my head. Yes, I'm a total nerd like that, so enjoy. But we don't have the awareness to know when negativity starts, and so we start reacting and responding to things without conscious intention. And we have these extremes that come up in the inner truths we don't want to see, and plant medicine helps reveal the truth. So plant medicines, I pulled up a few things here because not many of you following me might actually know much about them. But plant medicines are essentially psychoactive substances. Ayahuasca is something that's quite well known. People go down to the jungle of Peru or the Andes, and they sit with this medicine. This master plant teacher, Huachuma or San Pedro, comes from a cactus. Kambo and Rapé is from tobacco. It's a snuff, and tobacco is a master teacher plant as well, used in a lot of sacred ceremonies. We have Kambo, which is the secretion from a frog. So, ethnogen plant medicine really focuses on the use of naturally occurring psychoactive substances that help create temporary states of altered consciousness. Now, the reason why we work with these medicines, I mean, they've been used for many years, the ancient traditions, even our medicines we buy over the counter, Tylenol, Advil, these things, they are all derived from what we used to get from nature. And now they've been synthesized and created in laboratories and other things have been added, but that's where it's all derived from. So, entheogen plants, I always say that word wrong. This plant medicine has been used for the purpose of spiritual development for thousands of years in many different cultures. A lot of indigenous ceremonies around the world are using these sacred plants to help alter their states of consciousness to reach higher levels of spirituality, to uncover layers of reality, and to experience that oneness that we all talk about, that even religions talk about, but we don't know how to experience. We don't allow ourselves to experience because we use our minds, which are extremely powerful things to create our reality. And when there was a guy, Michael, who was on earlier on the live that I said hi to. He's a magician and he works with magic, and his aim is to help people realize that their mental constructs are what's creating their reality. And it's extremely true. Your external environment is a direct representation of your internal environment. If you think everything is shit and it's horrible, it's going to be shit and it's going to be horrible. If you think everything is going to be okay, it's going to work out, you continually find solutions. If you're calm and focused and disciplined on the inside, your environment represents that. If you're chaotic on the inside and about to have a mental breakdown, it doesn't matter. If you're saying one thing, people will pick up on the energy and vibration that you're putting out. There's a lot of increase in scientific studies now on the use of these plant medicines. Michael Pollan, How to Change Your Mind. This is Your Mind on Plants. Now has a series on Netflix, which I highly recommend everyone go and watch to learn a little bit more about these medicines, their use, the history, what the benefits are that can be used, and how the different universities and studies are diving back in, and the bad rap that they got during the 60s when they were banned and demonized. So a lot of these medicines also are really helping with depression and anxiety, especially in the terminally ill, people that have PTSD, that have traumatic experiences. Really helps to rewire the brain. And we know from a neuroscience perspective that we can literally do that. We can change the shapes of our brains. We can't eliminate old pathways, but we can create new ones and create stronger connections. And so, there's ketamine transfusion therapy. MDMA is being used for treating depression, psilocybin, ayahuasca, Huachuma, very heart opening, connecting people. And so, depending on where you live, the use of these entheogens, can be varied. There are some that they grow naturally in a variety of climates. Sometimes the shamans travel and bring this medicine, mescaline, which is native to America. That's the cactus. Ibogaine is from a shrub found in the rainforest. A lot of people have heard about ayahuasca, which ayahuasca itself is the root, and it does not have any psychoactive substance in it. It is the companion plant that is brewed with it that allows this potent hallucinogen to come out so that you can have these experiences. Mescaline is the psychoactive element in peyote or Huachuma. Psilocybin, we know typically as mushrooms, and these were being researched by Harvard, similar to mescaline, before becoming classified as restricted substances. And I'm very happy to see that the research is going back into these areas, that there are centers where you can go and work with a team of psychologists or therapists to really work through your shit. And as well, these different spiritual communities developing and really redefining the word church. I don't typically like this word. It's very triggering for a lot of people. But being able to have community and serve it as a sacrament and connect internally to who you are and to other people. If you look at a lot of the top leaders of the world, the top 1%, they all have some sort of spiritual practice. And the word practice is there for a reason, because they are practicing every single day these values, the meditation, the connection to something greater than themselves, their vision. This is why they're visionary leaders, right? Expanding the mind, the consciousness, allowing themselves to think differently, to make connections in different ways, rather than staying in this narrow paradigm and narrative that we've had. We can't invent new things if we don't allow ourselves to dream up different realities, to bring them into existence. I just put up a post on my LinkedIn with some different quotes from Albert Einstein. And, people who work in quantum physics, people who work in the mathematics realm, who work in these different spheres, they know what we're talking about too. Science and spirituality are two sides of the same coin. I'm a very firm believer in that. Alan Watts said in one of his discourses that the priest and the philosopher should not be separated. They support each other. They give each other foundation. And they are both about uncovering the truth of reality, of what is. And that truth is different for different individuals. But the universal truth is that we're all vibration and that we're all connected. My experience, you experience part of that through the energy that I emit, that you receive. And when we did these ceremonies this last week, it was beautiful. Some of the people I knew and some of them I hadn't met yet. I've walked away with 25 members of a soul family. These are people that I've developed this deep bond with, gone through incredible experiences with. And I know I could call on any single one of them if I needed something, and they would be there. To be vulnerable and to go through these experiences, to do the work. Healing is hard work, my friends. It is not just this, rainbows and starseed and, ascension, beautiful cards and some Palo Santo and some sage and some crystals. No, it is dealing with your shit, literally, quite literally, your shit that is inside your body. It's going to come out, maybe one end or the other. You're going to sweat, you're going to cry, you're going to laugh, all these things. To be there with other people on this journey and to do that work, to face your demons, to confront the aspects of yourself that you don't want to see, and to rewire the pathways so that you can be a better human, so that you can connect better with your partner, with your children, at work, with your team. This is really, really powerful stuff. And it's life-changing. Huge transformative experiences, realizations, the release of trauma. And this is why I feel so strongly about this type of work and encourage everyone to at least look it up. Learn about it for yourself. Ask questions. Be curious. This is the lens we should look at life through. Curiosity. And we should also be applying a lens of compassion to ourselves and to others, especially to ourselves. We can be our own harshest critic. And as we learn, as we evolve, as we grow, we will judge ourselves for past decisions, past mistakes. But all of those things are what got you here today. And so it's really important to remember that as you're on these journeys of self-improvement, self-empowerment, discovery, revealing the truth of who you are and the truth of the reality around you. Each truth to each person is going to be different. It's going to grow and morph and change. And so the more you work with these medicines, the more you find your voice, who you are, the less shame you carry, the more that you can connect with others at deeper levels, not just the surface level bullshit that, we're fed with social media and things. Now, those things are all tools and they can be used for good or not so good purposes. People ask me, aren't you worried you'll get addicted to plant medicine? No, not at all. Because it's hard work. Yes, there are some beautiful, incredible extraterrestrial-like experiences and these transcendental experiences that are ineffable. There are no words to describe the joy and connection and wisdom that you just uncover for yourself. But there's also a lot of hard stuff to get through. Things that the mind doesn't want to let go of, the ego, that ego structure. So going through these experiences really takes you to the next level. And that's exactly what happened. We had 3 ayahuasca ceremonies, 2 were at night, 1 was in the daytime. Now, typically, daytime ceremonies are not a thing. And it takes a lot of courage to be able to do that in front of other people because, I mean, I'll tell you, I was definitely making some weird faces when I was going through some of my experiences. We all sang. So the biggest takeaway that I got is that we all have a voice and we all can sing beautifully. The things I learned about my brothers and sisters when they sang, because of the song they chose, it just made me love them all that much more. And I can honestly say that I love each and every single individual that was at those retreats. And it's a deeper bond than anything you can imagine. And so going through this time in and time out with people that you have this bond with, people that you love, that are in your community, it just takes life to a whole nother level. I'm so excited to be moving to Austin, Texas, because half the people at the retreat live there. And it is just this knowing that I have these people who are going to have light in their eyes, that are going to be sparkling with love and joy, compassion. And that's something that not many of us often experience, but we can create this for ourselves. So, ayahuasca, we drank, and there's a lot of songs the maestro sings, and you go into a hypnotic state and you have your experience, and it's different for everyone. Usually by day 3, it's a little bit more deep because you're a bit more relaxed, a little bit more comfortable with the space. We did a Kambo ceremony, so this is the secretion from the frog. It's bioactive peptides and neuropeptides, so also benefits for the brain. And they positively affect us with health promoting properties. So I'm just reading here from Cami's website. Maestra Cami and Andrea, based in Austin, Texas. Beautiful facilitators. Cami's been serving for a couple of years. Andrea just recently got certified and has been serving under Cami training. And there's a broad range of functions. So these peptides can be involved with our gastrointestinal system, cardiovascular, immune system, antimicrobial, immune modulatory peptides, the nervous system. And as we age, our bodies begin to feel the effects of our lifestyle choices. So from an evolutionary standpoint, our vitality starts to decrease, and aging just means that our cells are losing the efficiency and efficacy that they had when we were younger. So the peptides come in and they play a crucial role in overall cellular functioning. And it helps to bring the vitality back. And there's a whole bunch of research. If you guys would like the resources, I'd be happy to point you in the direction. If you're in Austin, Texas, please look up Cami. Kambo.com is the website. And to work with the plant medicine Smiling Jaguar retreats, I highly recommend both of these parties. We had Taylor doing the cacao ceremonies, Taylor Ambrose, Taylor Hall on Instagram is Taylor Ambrose. And so, there's so many beautiful elements that we were able to bring. The Kambo was so clearing. I've never felt so focused and clear about myself. It also cleared out things in my body. I felt like I had a lot of energy. I didn't need as much sleep. The cacao ceremony, super grounding. That dark chocolate, helping to really root and ground the lessons that we learned and to open up the heart, slow down, right? And connect with people in this sharing. And then the Huachuma, that's very heart opening as well. And that was a real nice way to integrate everything. I've done quite a lot of plant medicine work this year with peyote and Huachuma, ayahuasca, rapé, that's a tobacco snuff. And I use that in my meditation as well, just to ground or ascend, depending on the type of rapé I'm using. And so it has been really transformative in my journey of self-growth and development. It's helped me expand my mind, expand my consciousness. So that's helped me in business. It's helped me in relationships. It's helped me to acknowledge things about myself that I previously may not have wanted to look at. And it's really just opened up this beautiful community of people. As my brother Joel would say, I love everyone so much. I can't take it. I don't know how I can take it, because your heart just gets cracked open. We learn how to numb ourselves in society through drugs and alcohol and overworking and always chasing extremes. And this work really helps you to come home to yourself and to accept yourself for who you are, love yourself, and to do the work required to build these connections, to forge these bonds, to ascend and to expand the mind, the consciousness, so that you can be more intentional about the life that you're living. If you would like more resources, you can go to plantmedicine.org. There's some beautiful podcasts there. There's a whole bunch of podcasts. I mean, even Andrew Huberman, the Huberman Labs, has talked about it. He's a professor at Stanford that is a neuroscience expert, and so he talked about working with these medicines and psychedelics and how it affects the brain and the results that it has. So there's a lot of different resources that you can look into, both from the indigenous history perspective, the science behind it, and how it's being studied now and what the plans are for the future. There's the military also has some programs, veterans exploring treatment solutions and leading the way in healing PTSD Heroic Hearts Project. So I think this is going to be an amazing time to watch how these medicines unfold and how they really can have a positive impact on our society. Imagine the people that have gone through traumatic experiences in war, in car accidents, in emotional and mental trauma. They can be healed through this medicine, not just talk therapy, not just intellectualizing it, but really rewiring the brain, really experiencing that connectiveness, that love at a deep, deep level. It's going to transform how we think and feel as a race, how we connect with each other, how we connect with our planet, how we connect with our businesses, and how we design our future moving forward. So I am a big believer in this work. I'm going to continue working in this space, supporting Smiling Jaguar retreats and other parties, Kemi Kambo, the peyote circles, sweat lodges, these different modalities, they all serve their purpose. And so it's not about needing to do all of them, and you don't need to do any of them if you're not feeling called to. I'm simply inviting you to be curious and to learn about them, ask the questions, and decide for yourself if you think that would be a good thing for your path. And maybe not right now, maybe in the future, but holding that compassion for those around you that are doing this work. And when you're ready, raising your hand, and there will be someone to take it and light the way. And I'd be happy to be that person as well, and introduce you to the various maestros and maestras that I'm working with, and share my experience, and be happy to answer questions. As we work on ourselves more and more, we have the ability to affect change in the world because we are changing ourselves and our perception, our behaviors. And that's really all we have control over. So I hope that has been useful for everyone. I know I spoke for quite a while, but I really wanted to share both of these experiences with you. If you want to look at the Vipassana course, you can just go to Dhamma, DHAMMA.org. I'll share that in the comments as well. Or you can look up Smiling Jaguar Retreats on Facebook or Instagram and see what events they have coming up. And, from there, I look forward to seeing you at some of the next events. And if you, like I said, have questions, shoot me a DM. I'd be happy to have a chat about whatever you've got going on and how this work might help you on that path. All right. I'll see you guys very soon. Bye.